My daughter collapsed on my doorstep at 1 a.m., barefoot, shaking with bite marks on her neck. He said it was a joke, that he wanted her to fail the competition, and I didn't scream. I didn't even breathe. My hand just clutched the doorknob until my knuckles turned white. I'm sharing this because someone out there needs to hear it. If you're watching, stay with me till the end. Tap like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know how far the truth can travel. My name is Lois Mayfield. I'm 68, a retired nurse living alone in a small Indiana town. That night changed everything. When I held Rose in my arms for the first time, I promised her she'd never feel alone. After my husband burned alive in a factory fire, I kept that promise. I worked double shifts, gave up vacations, and poured my soul into raising her. She was soft, always worried about others. Too soft for this world. When she met Adam, I saw his charm right away. He wore expensive shoes and always made sure you knew the brand. His laugh was a little too loud. His eyes never stayed still. But Rose, she was smiling again, so I smiled too. I didn't say anything when he brought her flowers on our first dinner together, but interrupted her every time she spoke. I didn't say anything when he asked what I made from nursing, then chuckled and said he made that in a week. I just bit my tongue. When they got engaged, she cried tears of joy. She said he made her feel safe. I paid for the wedding. Every chair, every rose, every silver fork. Adam's family barely contributed, but they made sure to sit front and center, while I was tucked near the kitchen. His mother said my dress looked homey. I smiled, for Rose. I gave them my husband's old car. Then I paid for the down payment on their house. I drained half my savings, because I thought I was building her a future. I never imagined I was building her cage. After the wedding, Rose called less. She said she was tired, that Adam worked late, that things were fine. Then she stopped calling altogether. I would check my phone like a ritual, send her little photos of the dog next door, the garden we used to plant together. Sometimes she would respond with a heart. Sometimes nothing at all. Months passed. I dropped by unannounced once. Just to bring soup, Adam answered. He blocked the doorway with his body. She sips, sleeping. At 3 p.m., I said she steps sleeping. I heard her voice from inside, muffled. I tried to step forward, but he slammed the door. The next day, she texted me not to come again, said she was just going through a rough patch. Rough patches don't bruise your arms. I saw them in that one photo she posted, barely visible. But I knew, a mother knows. I prayed she stepped leave him, but she stayed. Then the hospital called. They said Rose had fainted at a grocery store. Dehydrated, weak, possibly an early miscarriage. I rushed there. She barely looked at me. Just stress, she whispered. I haven't been eating much. I tried to stay. Adam showed up before I could settle. He placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "We got it from here." She didn't look at me. As I left the room, I walked back to the parking lot, my heart in pieces. Weeks passed again. Then, that knock, that moment, that 1 a.m. thud against my door. She was standing there. Her knees gave out before I could reach her. I pulled her in, locked the door behind us, and wrapped her in a blanket. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. Only after 3 cups of warm tea and a silent hour did she whisper what he had done. The bite wasn't set from passion. It was punishment. He told her she was becoming boring, that he wanted her to feel like she was replaceable. He brought another woman home, once made Rose cook dinner for them, then sent her to bed while they laughed in the living room. His mother called it marriage discipline. That night, Rose said she locked herself in the bathroom and stared at the mirror for 2 hours, wondering if she was losing her mind. She wasn't. He was breaking her, piece by piece. When I offered to call the police, she begged me not to. She said he had too many friends, that he'd twist it, that no one would believe her. So I waited. I made her safe. I fed her. I held her hand while she trembled in her sleep. I turned off the lights when she flinched. Then, 3 days later, a woman knocked at my door. She was young, red eyes, holding an envelope. "Are you Rose Sepp's mother?" I nodded. I didn't know she was married. I swear. I thought he lived alone. Inside the envelope was a letter, handwritten. Confused, broken. She told us Adam had lied to her, that he'd met her through a coaching app, that he promised he was single and looking to start a family, that he'd filmed them without her knowing, that he had threatened to sue her when she cried. There were photos, screenshots, receipts. The young woman said she couldn't live with it anymore, that she saw a photo of Rose and recognized her eyes, the same hollow look she now had. She handed me the letter. "I'm sorry," she whispered, and left. I sat down on the edge of my bed, the pages shaking in my hands. Rose was curled up on the couch, her face buried in a pillow. She hadn't spoken since morning. I placed the letter next to her. She didn't move. I whispered, "You were never the problem." She didn't reply. But hours later, I heard her sobbing through the door, not like a child, like a woman mourning her own life. I stayed by the door. I didn't speak. I didn't knock. That was the moment I knew I couldn't save her with love alone. I needed a plan. Because Adam wasn't just cruel, he was careful, and careful men leave trails. If you know where to look. The next morning, I made her eggs and toast. She didn't touch them, but she said, "Thank you." That was enough. I kissed her forehead. Then I picked up the phone and called a lawyer. They didn't let me sit at the family table. Adam's mother said I'd lower the tone in front of her bridge club. Rose avoided my eyes. I smiled, for her sake. It was her big day, the day I'd paid for with every penny I had saved. I'd worked 36 years at the same nursing clinic. I skipped vacations, mended my own clothes, and boiled coffee grounds twice to stretch the bag. When she got engaged, I told her I'd take care of it all. I didn't want her to start her new life in debt. I paid for the flowers, the dresses, the catering, even the overpriced lavender macarons that Adam's mother insisted were tradition in her circles. I had never even tasted one. At the rehearsal dinner, she told me I shouldn't wear navy because it looked funereal. I said I'd find something else. She smiled at me, like I was a nuisance she had to manage. I bit my tongue. I ended up wearing a dress I hadn't touched since my husband's funeral. Cream lace, long sleeves, and a brooch he once gave me when Rose was born. I thought it might bring some warmth. Instead, it made me look invisible. The wedding hall was full of tall glasses and low whispers. I recognized none of the guests. Not one neighbor, not one old friend. Her side of the family had been swallowed by his. I walked in alone, gift box in hand, but was stopped at the entrance by a young man in a vest. He asked if I was kitchen staff. I shook my head. He looked confused and pointed me toward the back. I found my name on a table by the restrooms. The family table sat under a chandelier, crystal glasses, white linen, gold napkin rings. I saw Adam's cousins, his mother, her husband, and someone I didn't know, but not me. Rose looked stunning. Her dress glowed under the lights. She walked down the aisle with that soft smile, but her eyes were restless. They darted around like she was searching for a familiar face she couldn't find. I stood when she passed by. She didn't meet my eyes. I clapped when they kissed. I swallowed hard when she danced with Adam's father instead of me. When dinner was served, I watched everyone get steak and wine. My plate came 20 minutes later, cold chicken and lukewarm rice. I smiled anyway, for her. After the cake cutting, Adam Sepp's mother raised her glass for a toast. She said, "To new beginnings, to class, to family who lifts you up, not drags you down." People laughed politely. My throat burned. Rose looked at me then. Briefly, like she knew, like she wanted to say something. But she turned back before she could. I left before the last song. I waited until they were on the dance floor, then slipped out. My heels clicked softly on the sidewalk. No one followed. The next morning, I sent her a message. I told her she looked beautiful, that I was proud, that I loved her. She replied with a heart. The weeks after the wedding were quiet. Too quiet. She used to call me twice a week, just to tell me about her day, the funny things Adam said, the meals she tried to cook, that all stopped. I'd text her small things. Saw your favorite tea at the store, or dog next door had puppies again. Sometimes she'd respond. Usually she wouldn't. I pretended it was normal. Newlywed life, busy schedules, adjustments. But I knew something had shifted. The first time I saw her on a video call, she was wearing a long-sleeved cardigan in July. Her voice was dry, her smile tight. I asked if she was okay. Just tired. Everything all right with Adam? Of course, she said. Too fast. He's just working a lot. Travel coming up. She ended the call early, said she had a headache. I didn't sleep that night. A few weeks later, I called her again. She didn't pick up. I tried twice. 3 times. Then she texted, "Can talk." Sorry. The silence grew roots. Months passed. One night, I was going through an old photo album when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. When I answered, it was the hospital. "Are you the emergency contact for Rose Mayfield?" I dropped the photo book. They said she had been brought in for severe dehydration. She had fainted at the grocery store, possible miscarriage. I rushed there. When I arrived, she was asleep. Pale, fragile. Her wrist had tape from an IV. I sat beside her and brushed her hair back gently. Adam came in 10 minutes later. He barely acknowledged me. "She doesn't need visitors right now." I stood my ground. He leaned in and said, "She asked me to tell you to go." I looked at her. Her eyes were shut, but I saw a tear slide down her cheek. I left. When I showed up with soup, Adam met me at the door. "She doesn't want to see you." His eyes were cold, arms crossed like I was just another knock to ignore. I said nothing. I tightened my grip on the warm container and stepped forward. He moved to block me. I didn't ask permission. I pushed past him. The living room smelled like cheap cologne and dirty laundry. I saw her, curled up on the couch like a ghost. Blanket half off her shoulder, face turned to the wall. "Rose?" She didn't move at first. Then her voice came. Dry, soft, barely there. "Please, Mom, just go." I froze. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. My daughter had never spoken to me like that. Not even as a teenager. I placed the soup on the end table. I stood there for a moment, hoping she'd look at me, hoping she'd change her mind. She didn't step. Adam stood behind me with a smirk. I walked out. My legs felt heavy, like I was dragging years behind me. Outside, I sat in my car and cried without making a sound. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. I didn't start the engine for a long time. That night, I wrote her a letter. I told her I wasn't angry, that I loved her no matter what, that I was here if she needed me for anything, anytime. I told her I missed the way she used to call me after a long day, just to tell me what she cooked for dinner. I folded the letter carefully and slipped it into an envelope. I dropped it into her mailbox before sunrise. She never replied. I waited days, weeks. I told myself she needed space. That maybe Adam was watching her every move. That maybe she didn't feel safe even reading it. But the silence, it started to rot something inside me, something small and sacred. I busied myself with small things. Rearranged the spice cabinet, mowed the yard twice a week, started talking to the neighbor's cat like it understood me. Anything to not think about how quiet the phone had become. The holidays passed. No call, no card. Every night, I'd sit by the window with a cup of tea, just in case a car pulled up, just in case she changed her mind. Then came January. One bitter night, I got a call from the pharmacy about a prescription mix-up. When I checked my voicemail afterward, I noticed something strange. A message from her number. I held my breath as I hit play. It wasn't of her voice. It was Adam Sepp's. "She's Sepp's doing fine. No need to worry." That Sepp's all he said, 4 seconds long. My blood ran cold. Why would he be answering her phone? I didn't call back. I knew he pick up again. Instead, I drove past their house later that week. Lights were on, her car was in the driveway. But the curtains were shut. Not even a shadow moved. I parked down the block and waited for hours. No one came out. I started watching their street more often, twice a week, then 3. I take different cars, wear sunglasses, park farther away. I didn't even tell my neighbor what I was doing. I knew how it looked, but I also knew something was wrong. One night, I saw him leave around midnight, dressed too sharp for a gas station run. He didn't come back for hours. I never saw Rose. Not even at the window. I started writing her letters again. I never mailed them. I kept them in a shoebox in the hall closet. Page after page of thoughts I couldn't say out loud. Are you safe? Do you eat enough? Do you cry in the dark when he sleeps? Does he touch you like you're not human? That last one broke me. I burned that letter in the fireplace. The ashes clung to the air like regret. Then came the worst day of all. I bumped into her doctor at the store. A kind man with sad eyes. He used to treat my late husband's back pain. He said, "How's Sip's Rose doing?" I blinked. "You Sib's seen her?" "She came in a few weeks ago, looked thin, quiet, said she might be pregnant again." He paused. "She didn't come back for the second test." I called, but no answer. My stomach turned. She hadn't told me anything. I nodded and walked away. But inside, something cracked open, the kind of crack you can't tape back together. That night, I sat by the fireplace and stared into the flames. I thought about everything I'd given her. All the hours, all the sacrifices. I thought about the way she looked at the wall instead of me. About the way she said, "Just go." And I hated him. Not for what he'd done to me, but for what he had turned her into. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I walked the floor until sunrise, whispering prayers to a God I wasn't sure still heard me. Then, 2 months after that night, the phone rang. I saw her name. My hand trembled as I picked it up. "Mom?" Her voice cracked like old paper. "I'm sorry. I should called sooner. I didn't know who I was anymore." I held the phone to my ear like it was oxygen. "Can I come stay with you? I can stay here anymore." I didn't ask why. I just said, yes, and left the porch light on. She showed up in a nightgown, holding a trash bag with torn clothes and one cracked phone. Her eyes were hollow. She didn't speak right away, just stepped inside, slow, like her bones remembered pain. I didn't ask questions. I didn't cry. I led her to the kitchen and made her tea, cinnamon and honey, the one she liked when she was little. She sat at the table like a broken lamp, still there, but no light inside. Her hands shook as she held the mug. I wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. "I don't know how long I can stay," she whispered. "You can stay forever." She didn't look up. "He started putting things in my drinks. Just a little at first. He said it would help me sleep." I clenched the edge of the chair. Then he stopped telling me. I wake up with no memory of what happened. Sometimes I find bruises. My voice wouldn't come. He said I was too emotional. That I needed balance. His mother brought pills once. Said she used to take them too. Said it was normal for wives to obey. The rage in my chest rose so fast. I thought I might pass out. I had never hated anyone like I hated them in that moment. "I wanted to leave earlier," she said. "But I didn't know how. I kept thinking it was my fault, that I was broken." "You not broken," I said. "You were trapped." She finally looked at me. Her eyes filled, but the tears didn't fall. That night, I gave her my bed, and I slept on the couch. I lay there staring at the ceiling, hands folded on my chest, breathing like I was keeping myself from exploding. I wanted to drive over to their house. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drag that man into the street and show the whole world what he really was. But I didn't. I waited. Because if I acted on rage, I'd make mistakes, and I couldn't afford mistakes. Not when she had finally come home. I lay there thinking of every moment. I stayed silent. Every time I looked away. Every time I told myself she was just busy, or adjusting, or newly married. She had come to me in a nightgown, with one trash bag. That was what she had left after 2 years with him. A bag of torn clothes and a cracked phone. In trauma, she didn't set have words for. In the morning, I made breakfast. She didn't eat much, just nibbled toast and stared at the floor. I didn't push. Then came the knock. I looked through the curtain. A woman, young, nervous, holding something in her hand. I opened the door partway. "Is Adam here?" I stared at her. She looked past me, her eyes scanning the room like she expected to see him inside. "I'm sorry," I said. "He doesn't live here." She looked embarrassed. "He gave me this address." I stepped outside and shut the door behind me. "He Sep's my daughter, Sep's husband." She blinked. "He said you were his aunt, that he was staying here until his divorce cleared." My blood went ice cold. She looked at me, then down at the envelope in her hands. "I don't want any trouble," she said. "But he lied to me. I thought she should know." She handed me the envelope and walked away. I stood there, shaking, staring at the flap. I hadn't even opened it yet. And already, I knew it would change everything. She handed me an envelope. "This is for her." I didn't know he was married. I said, "Sorry." She looked like a girl who still slept with the light on. Couldn't have been more than 22. She held herself like she was trying to shrink. Her left cheek had a faint yellow bruise. The kind you try to hide with makeup, but it never quite disappears. I took the envelope, but I didn't open it right away. My fingers trembled, and I didn't want her to see. I asked her if she was safe. She nodded, but her eyes said something else. "I met him on a dating app. He said he was divorced. Said his wife was his cousin, Septa's daughter, just staying with him for a while until she got back on her feet." I felt my stomach twist. I didn't say anything. I let her speak. "He took me out for dinner twice. Then said money was tight and asked if I could cover the third. I didn't think much of it. Then he started recording us. Without telling me. I found out by accident." She looked down at her arm. The sleeve was too long, pulled over her knuckles. "When I told him I wanted to leave, he said I already signed an NDA, that he could ruin me if I talked. Said he had that connections. Seption, that I was replaceable." I wanted to throw up. She looked at the house behind me. "I just thought she should know that Sep's not the only one." I thanked her quietly. She nodded and walked away without turning back. I stood on the porch, holding the envelope like it might burn me. Inside, I found 6 handwritten pages. Her handwriting was round, young. Some of the lines were shaky. Some had smudges where tears had fallen. She described the first time he grabbed her wrist too hard. The first night he locked her out of his apartment, as a joke. How he kept her wallet once. Said it was practice for marriage. He made her sign a non-disclosure agreement. Told her he was building a new app, and she was part of the beta test. Said he needed control over her output. I didn't even understand half the words he used. But I understood control. I understood fear. I read every word in that letter with my heart in my throat. When I finished, I sat down in the hallway. I could hear Rose sleeping upstairs. She had finally started resting again. I didn't want to wake her. I closed my eyes and pictured him, his smug grin. The way he stood behind her like a shadow. The way she used to flinch at loud sounds. How her hands always shook when she poured water. And now this girl, just a child, with bruises and a letter in her hand. That was the moment something inside me clicked. This wasn't just about my daughter anymore. This man was doing this to others, quietly, over and over. And I had enough. I wiped my face, stood up, and went to my office. I opened the drawer where I kept my old camera, the one I hadn't touched in years. I started a folder on my desktop, titled it Just in Case. I scanned the letter, every page. I saved it twice, once to my laptop, once to an external drive. I wrote down the date and time the girl had come. I took a photo of her envelope. Then I opened a notebook and started writing everything I remembered. Every bruise, every strange call, every text Rose had shown me. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't stream or storm the gates. Because I had a plan. And when it hit him, he never see it coming. I called Adam Sep's mother and told her I was ready to forgive and forget. For the family Sep's sake, I said. She let out a purr on the other end of the line. It's Sep's good to know you. Seps are not holding grudges at your age. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. I told her I wanted to host a small dinner. Just us, to clear the air. I said Rose was starting to feel better. That it might be good for her to see some unity. She offered to bring dessert. I told her I had it covered. That same day I called my lawyer. Asked if he sept join us for dinner. Just bring your appetite, I told him. And that stack of documents we discussed. I dusted off the dining room. Washed the wine glasses I hadn't used since my husband's funeral. I lit candles. Set out my best plates. I even put out that crystal salt shaker Adam once mocked me for. I also placed a camera above the bookshelf. Small, hidden, facing the table. When Adam arrived, he smelled like expensive cologne and fake repentance. He held a bottle of wine and wore a suit that looked like it had been ironed 5 minutes ago. Rose, he said, as he leaned in for a hug. You look alive. I felt her body tense beside me. His mother kissed the air beside my cheek. Lovely home. Very quaint. I smiled. Dinner Sep's ready. We sat down, passed plates, said empty pleasantries. Adam made jokes. His mother talked about a cruise she was planning. Rose barely touched her food. Halfway through dessert, I stood. I wanted to thank you both for coming, I said. There's Sips just one more thing before coffee. I turned to my lawyer. He reached into his briefcase. Adam raised an eyebrow. What Sep's this? I looked him in the eye. It's Sip's dinner and a show. The lawyer handed him a thick envelope. Then he handed one to his mother. What is this? She snapped. Eviction papers, I said. Cease and desist, and full restraining orders. Adam laughed. You can sit, be serious. Behind him, the screen on the wall lit up. I had connected it to my laptop earlier. With one click, I played the videos. Footage, screenshots, recordings, the letter from the second girl. Adam Seps, mother gasped. Adam went pale. This is illegal, he shouted. You have no right. I raised my hand. I have every right. He looked at Rose. She didn't flinch. He turned to me. You stare a monster. I leaned in close. You should sift picked a different victim. His mother stood, trembling. You still regret this? No, I said. You will. That night, I served more than dinner. I served consequences, and it was just the beginning. The screen showed everything, his texts, her bruises, his voice saying, she doesn't matter. She seps just furniture that cooks. Rose didn't move. She stared like she'd left her body. Adam Sep's mother blinked once, then twice. This is edited. This isn't Sept real. I didn't speak. Then came the clip from the girl's phone. Her crying, him laughing, telling her no one would believe her. His face in full view. Clear audio, time-stamped. The room went still. Then his mother screamed. Sharp and high, like something broke inside her. Adam stood up fast. Turn it off. He reached for the remote. I leaned back in my chair and calmly sipped my tea. My neighbor Gerald, who'd come by for pie and happened to be a retired cop, put his hand on Adam's chest. Sit down, Gerald said. Now. Adam looked at him, then at me. You did this. I nodded. His mother clutched her pearls like a bad actress. You tricked us. You invited us here to humiliate us. No, I said. I invited you here to warn you. I looked at Rose. She hadn't said a word. She just watched the screen, as if it was still playing. Everything in that folder has already been copied, I said. It's been sent to 3 lawyers and 1 news outlet. Adam laughed, but his voice cracked. That Sip's illegal. Gerald tilted his head. Actually, she followed the law just fine. The girl gave consent. So did the nurse. And as for the texts, those were yours. He opened the folder I'd handed him earlier and began reading out loud. Verbal coercion, falsified documents, non-consensual recording, and reproductive interference. Adam Seps, mother slapped the table. You won win this. I looked at her, dead in the eyes. You already lost. She turned to Rose. Tell them it sets a misunderstanding. Rose blinked for the first time in minutes. You watched him drug me. You called it aid obedience. Adam slammed his hand on the table. You were nothing before me. You think your mother can save you now. Gerald took a step closer. That sip's enough. I stood. This dinner was never about making peace. It was about exposing the truth with all of you in the same room, where no one could deny it. Adam tried to speak again, but Gerald raised his hand. One more word, and I call it in. Silence. I walked to the fireplace, picked up the remote, and turned off the screen. I said waited too long. I said, watched too much, swallowed too many lies. I turned to Adam. This is your last meal in peace. He glared at me. What does that mean? I smiled. Because my revenge wasn't finished yet. What they didn't know was that I also owned the house they lived in. Years ago, when Rose got married, I used most of my savings to buy them a house. It wasn't grand, but it had a garden, new floors, and space to grow. I bought it under my name to protect her, just in case. I never told Adam. I let him think he was the man of the house. I kept the deed in my safe, untouched. Rose once asked if I'd signed it over. I told her I was waiting for the right time. She never asked again. That night at dinner, after the screen went dark and the room fell silent, I gave my lawyer a small nod. He pulled a thick envelope from his briefcase and slid it across the table. Adam snorted like it was a joke. You are bluffing. Read it, I said. He opened the envelope and pulled out the papers. His fingers slowed. His lips moved without sound. Then his head snapped up. You are evicting us? I didn't blink. You don't own that house. I do, always have. That sip's not possible. Would you like to see the deed? He tossed the papers onto the table. You can do this. I have rights. My lawyer spoke. You were never on the title. You don't pay the mortgage. You don't pay property tax. You to a guest, a violent one. Adam Sepp's face flushed red. You think a piece of paper can kick me out? No, I said. But the sheriff can. You have 48 hours. His mother started to speak. But I cut her off. You too. You were never welcome. You disrespected my home, my daughter, and my name. She scoffed. I'll sue you. For what? Hosting dinner? Her mouth opened, then closed again. Adam pushed his chair back so hard it screeched across the floor. This is a setup. No, I said. This is justice. He turned to Rose. You Cetra really okay with this? You Cetra throw me out like trash. She looked at me, then at him. Her voice was barely a whisper. I don't no. He smiled like he won. See, she still loves me. I stayed quiet. My heart ached. I'd seen this before, the tug of war inside her, the guilt, the fear, the memory of good days mixed with bad ones. It wasn't just love, it was survival. He stepped toward her. Baby, we can fix this. She flinched. He didn't notice. I messed up. Yeah, but this is too far. You you're letting her control you. I stepped between them. She not your puppet anymore. He turned on me. You stare a bitter old woman, alone, trying to destroy us because no one ever loved you. My voice didn't rise. I buried the man I loved, and I never had to drug him to keep him. He opened his mouth again, but Gerald stood from the corner. He didn't say a word, just stood tall. Adam sat back down. My lawyer took the papers and handed Adam his copy. This will be filed first thing tomorrow. You receive formal notice from the court, but as of now, you trespassing. Adam looked around the room like a trapped animal. You think this is over? No, I said. This is the beginning. His mother slammed her glass down. You you're cruel. No, I whispered. You are. You just thought no one would stop you. She reached for her purse. Come on, Adam. Let's go. He didn't move. I looked at Rose. Her hands were in her lap. She wasn't crying, she just looked empty. Rose, I said gently, you can stay here, you still be safe. She didn't answer. Adam stood. We s'll be out in 48. Don't stet come near us. You one set need to worry about that. He left without another word. His mother followed, muttering under her breath. The door shut behind them, like a final page turning. I sat down across from Rose. You did good, I said. She stared at her tea. I reached for her hand, but she pulled away. She still loves him, my lawyer said quietly. It still take time. I nodded. Because love doesn't vanish in a night, even when it hurts. And I still had one more move to make. Rose had always dreamed of being a mother. She used to cradle her childhood dolls like they were real babies. She would name them, hum to them, tuck them into her dresser drawer like it was a crib. After she got married, that dream only grew stronger. But months turned into years. No baby. She blamed herself. She cried in the bathroom when her period came. She avoided baby showers. Adam acted supportive in front of others, but I saw the way he looked at her, like she was broken. Then came the miscarriage. I remember how pale she looked in that hospital bed, the way she curled in on herself like something inside her had died. And I don't just mean the pregnancy. She told me. Adam barely reacted. He blamed her diet, her stress, her emotions. He told her to get serious, or get used to being childless. After everything else I'd uncovered, I couldn't shake the feeling that something about her miscarriage didn't sit right. So I asked a favor. One of my oldest friends, Deidre, is a nurse, still working part-time at a small clinic. I gave her a sample, something Adam had thrown out. She didn't ask questions, just ran the test. When she called me 2 days later, her voice was shaking. It wasn't Stet his child, she said. Lois, it was never his. I felt the world tilt. Are you sure? 100%. That night, I sat at the kitchen table for hours, file open in front of me. I read the lab results over and over. And then it all made sense. He'd tampered with her supplements, slipped things into her tea, changed her prescriptions without telling her, forced her into treatments she didn't understand or agree to. She'd once told me her head felt fuzzy after every appointment, that she couldn't remember what the doctors said. Now I knew why. He wanted her to fail, and when the pregnancy finally came, it wasn't his. Maybe she had been with someone else. Maybe not. Maybe something terrible had happened that she hadn't told me about. None of that mattered. What mattered was that Adam had used her body like it was a project, then blamed her when the result didn't go his way. He didn't just betray her. He violated her. I printed the report, put it in a plain folder, walked into her room. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her hands. Rose, I said, I need you to read something. She took the folder, opened it. Her eyes moved slowly, word by word. Then she froze. Her hands began to shake. Her lips parted. No sound came. Her knees buckled, and I caught her, just in time. I helped her to the bed, sat beside her, held her while she sobbed like a child. When she finally spoke, it was a whisper. Do it, Mom. I looked at her. Do what you have to do. With the help of the mistress, the nurse, and the footage, we filed charges: assault, reproductive abuse, fraud. I walked into the courthouse with a folder full of truth and a heart steady as stone. The young woman, the one who'd come to my porch with bruises and a letter, agreed to testify. So did Deidre, my nurse friend, and Gerald, my neighbor. We didn't need to lie. The truth was ugly enough. I had proof of the drugs, the texts, the footage, photos of bruises, medical reports, screenshots, statements. But what none of us expected was what we found when we pulled the financials. It started with a line on one bank statement, a transfer from a trust fund in Rose's name. But Rose had never set one up. I followed the money, and what we discovered shook me deeper than anything Adam had done with his hands. His mother had created a trust fund when Rose married Adam, a fake one. It used Rose's maiden name, claimed it was a wedding gift from her side, but it wasn't a gift. It was a trap. She'd been quietly moving money out of it for 2 years, into shell accounts, vacation rentals, designer bags, donations to clubs that didn't know her name, but liked her money. When I confronted her lawyer with the documents, his face went pale. He asked for a recess before we even stepped into court. The courtroom was full that day. Rows of strangers, neighbors, even the woman who worked at the grocery store showed up. Word had spread. Rose sat next to me in a pale blue dress. Her hands trembled, but her chin stayed high. Adam walked in wearing a wrinkled suit. He didn't look at me. He looked straight ahead like he was walking to his own grave. His mother wore black. Not out of shame, out of habit. She stared at the ceiling like none of us existed. The judge was a woman, 60-ish, hair tied tight. She looked at the paperwork for a long time before she said a word. Then she turned to Adam. "You are being charged with multiple counts of assault, forced medical interference, financial fraud, and unauthorized video recording." He didn't flinch. Then she turned to his mother. "And you, Mrs. Caldwell, are being investigated for financial manipulation, fraudulent documents, and illegal use of trust funds." Her eyes twitched. "I was just protecting my son." "No," the judge said. "You were stealing from your daughter-in-law." The prosecutor spoke. Short, direct, everything laid out like pins in a cushion. Every word pressed deeper into them. The mistress testified. She told the court about the nights she cried in stairwells, about how he filmed her, about the bruises. Deidre explained the test results, how the DNA didn't match, how she'd seen this before in women who were being controlled. Then came Rose. She stood. Her voice was soft. "He said I was empty. That no man would want me if I couldn't carry a child. He made me take pills, then blamed me for what happened." Adam didn't move. His mother sighed. Then I stood. I wasn't supposed to speak, but the judge allowed it. I walked slowly to the center, held up the photos, the papers. I begged them to stop. I tried to warn her. They said I was overstepping. They said I was dramatic. I looked at Adam. "You almost destroyed her." Then I looked at his mother. "You watched it happen. You helped him do it." The judge sat quiet for a long moment. Then she leaned forward. "You such are lucky she didn't kill you." That line echoed in my head for days. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was true. If it had been someone else, they might have snapped, but not me. I chose the long road, the legal one. The one with cameras and folders and late nights by the printer. Because I wanted it to last. And I wasn't finished yet. Adam asked me to speak for him during sentencing. He stood there in handcuffs, looking like the same man who once laughed at my dinner table. Said he respected my strength. Said I was the only one who truly understood him. I stared at him in silence. Just like the night Rose collapsed at my door. Back then, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. But this time, I chose to stay still. He waited for me to speak. The court was silent. I could hear the ticking of the clock above the judge's bench. I didn't say a word. Not for him. Not ever again. The prosecutor read through every charge. The judge listened, flipping through the file like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Assault, medical tampering, coercion, recording without consent, financial fraud. Each count built like a wave crashing against him, and when it ended he stood there soaked in guilt, but still smug enough to think he'd walk out lighter. His lawyer tried one last time. Called him remorseful. Said he was a product of poor parenting. That part I agreed with. The judge leaned forward. Her voice was firm. 14 years. Adam didn't blink. I wondered if he even heard it. Then she turned to his mother. For your role in manipulating trust funds and enabling abuse, 5 years. No parole. His mother gasped, like someone had slapped her. This is ridiculous. I was protecting my family. No, the judge said. You were protecting a predator. Rose sat beside me, her hand wrapped in mine. She didn't speak, didn't cry. Her grip stayed tight. I looked at Adam one last time. His face had cracked. He mouthed something, but I didn't try to read his lips. They led him out. The cuffs clicked. The door shut behind him. That was the first time in years I felt my shoulders drop. We stepped into the hallway, and it was quiet. Reporters waited outside, but no one said anything yet. Then she appeared. The young woman with the envelope, the one who'd started it all. She walked up to Rose, arms open, trembling. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Rose nodded. Then the woman pulled her close and said, "He said I'll never hurt another woman again." And in that moment, I knew we hadn't set just one. We had broken the cycle. I handed her the deed in a plain manila envelope. No bow, no speech. Just a quiet transfer from my hands to hers. Rose didn't open it right away. She just looked at me, like she was still trying to believe it. "It's yours now," I said. No strings, no shadows, no him. Her eyes welled up, but the tears didn't fall. Not this time. She'd cried enough for 10 lifetimes. I watched her walk into the kitchen, put the envelope on the table, and gently rest her palm on it, like it was something sacred. That house had once been a trap. Now it was freedom. She lives there now, alone, but never lonely. There's a little dog she rescued, a garden she planted from scratch. She makes tea every evening. She reads again, she laughs now. And something in her spine has changed. She stands straighter, like she's finally allowed to take up space. We don't talk about him much anymore, not because we forgot, but because we've moved past the place where his name matters. Some scars don't fade. I see it when she brushes her hair back, the way she still checks locks twice, the way she startles at sudden sounds. But healing isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's about reclaiming what's left. As for me, I walk every morning, same route, past the library, through the park, around the little pond, where ducks gather in the early sun. I used to walk it with my husband before the fire took him. Now I walk it alone, but I never feel alone anymore. I drink my coffee hot, not forgotten on a cold windowsill. I answer my phone when it rings, but I no longer wait for it. I still keep the doors locked though, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Some nights, I sit by the fireplace and replay it all in my head. The first bruise I didn't notice, the call I ignored, the moments I dismissed because I didn't want to believe the truth. And I forgive myself, slowly. I used to think strength meant holding everything together. Now I know it sometimes means letting everything fall apart and choosing what to rebuild. I never thought I'd find peace again. Not after watching my only daughter unravel before my eyes. Not after seeing her return with nothing but a trash bag and silence. But peace came back, little by little, in the sound of her planting new flowers, in the way she leaves her curtains open, in the laughter I hear when she calls on Sunday. I don't need much now. Just mornings that start without dread, evenings that end without fear. I kept my last name. I thought about changing it, thought about burying that chapter with new initials, but I didn't. Because I'm not the woman he tried to silence. I'm not the mother they dismissed. I'm thin Lois Mayfield. And I survived. If you're still listening, thank you. It means more than you know. If you've ever survived something like this, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments, give this video a like, and let us know where you're watching from. Your voice matters, just like mine finally did.